So, the last thing I want to discuss today, and a bit of a longer discussion, hence why I've left it for last here. I've got the two early ones out of the way. Just the day before the show started, sorry, got my days mixed up. Just yesterday, they announced Steam Deck. Valve has came out and announced their own handheld portable gaming device, which is basically just a handheld PC. Now, while leaning to the positive side, it's been a bit mixed. I think it's because not a lot of people know quite what to make of it at this point. On Twitter, it's very positive. I think a lot of people are excited for it. Personally, I'm not entirely sure who the Steam Deck is for at this point. And to kind of get us going, we're going to go over to Digital Foundry, good old Digital Foundry. Richard Ledbetter writes via Eurogamer on this. There have been rumours, rumblings and actual solid reporting of a handheld from Valve for some time now, but the hardware has finally broken cover, and it's looking promising. Steam Deck is built on the same architectural building blocks as the new consoles from Sony and Microsoft, downscaled and refactored from a handheld. With up to 1.6 teraflops of GPU compute power aimed at delivering circa 720p gaming, the idea is to break PC gaming free from the traditional limitations of the PC itself. It's a handheld designed to be as liberating as a Nintendo Switch, but tied into the openness and sheer size of the Steam ecosystem. I should say as well that this is excerpts of the article that Richard's written, so if you want to go and see the full article and read it for yourself, where he delves a lot more into the actual specifications, which we don't go into here, definitely check out the link, because it's quite good to see the comparisons he makes. The most interesting elements of Steam Deck are the semi-custom AMD processor and the background operating system, and we'll start with the first. Valve, via IGN, describes the chip as being next-gen in nature using the latest architectures, which is true, but only if we consider the consoles as the defining factor of what a generation actually is. You can effectively consider Steam Deck's chip as being most similar in nature to the Xbox Series S, with significant reductions in all dimensions. The hardware looks best in class for a handheld, and if Valve's intent is to deliver some level of competition to the Nintendo Switch with its pricing, the value proposition is off the charts, relatively speaking. However, it is the software that has all to prove. Steam Deck is effectively a PC as open as any other. There is nothing stopping you from installing Windows or any other operating system. However, that's not what the Deck ships with. What you're getting is an evolution of SteamOS, meaning that Linux is the primary operating system. This presents something of a problem in that actual native support for Linux is thin on the ground, while support for the preferable Vulkan graphics API is stronger, but still far from taking root as an industry standard. This is still the area where I'm cautious about Steam Deck's chances of fully delivering on the potential. The compatibility layer will still need to be phenomenally good to get the best performance from what is an excellent processor, judged by mobile standards, but a rather weak one relative to a mainstream gaming PC. Questions also need to be asked about overall game performance, and we need to see much more of the system before we can offer any kind of definitive verdict. On one hand, we've seen the device running challenging AAA fare. Running the full-fat PC rendition of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order on a mobile processor is no mean feat. Even more impressive than that is the split-second view we had of Remedy's Control running on the system. So by extension, we can assume a very healthy level of performance for Steam Deck on the vast majority of PC titles in the Steam library. And let's not forget that we're talking about a catalogue of games here that stretches back decades. However, on the flip side, we have to think about the gaming generation to come. Let's not forget about the Series S, which is considering more power hungry in its pursuit of 60 frames per second for much of its library. Dynamic resolution ranges are already hitting 720p minimums or even lower, and that's using a very low level version of DirectX 12 built specifically for the silicon. Comparisons with Nintendo Switch also need to be treated with some degree of caution. On one hand, there is no doubt that at the core specs level, Steam Deck is literally generations ahead in every dimension. But at the same time, comparisons between the Switch and the Nvidia Shield Android TV built from the same silicon show just how much extra performance is gained by having that direct low-level API access. And I think in that article there from Richard, it's got my main concern about the Steam Deck. It's a lot of money for something that's not very future proof. Now, I've already got reservations about the Xbox Series X, the Xbox Series S, despite owning a Series S myself. But for now, it's fine. But again, if you go into the full article and look at the technical specifications, the Steam Deck is even less so. Now, it did run Control and Jedi Fallen Order, but only at high settings. Now, if you're only playing on the actual handset itself, it's only going to have a 720p display, which is fine, especially if you're playing it just shy of an arm's length away from your face. It's going to do the trick. Now, where the Switch has its pros is its ability to be docked or handheld. I'm seeing a lot of the early focus on this being on the handheld. Now, Valve is going to produce a dock to put your Steam Deck in to hook up to a monitor or a television, but no mention yet about whether or not that's going to have any kind of upscaling. And I think in comparison to the Switch as a competitor, I think we're going to need to know more about that. Now, at the time of this recording, the Steam Deck went available for pre-order, and from what I can tell, sold out already. A lot of buying issues, a lot of people not able to add to cart. They're doing a deposit system to try and combat scalpers, but I don't think that's really going to do any kind of good. So, despite my reservations for it, it's still blowing it out of the water. And I think the core market that it's going to appeal to at the moment is indie gamers, rather than people who want to play Fallen Order and stuff like that. If you want to play high fidelity games, you're going to play it on your gaming PC, either with a controller, mouse, and keyboards in that sedentary kind of position. I don't imagine many people wanting to take it out on the go. Not to say that there won't be. There's probably someone watching this right now who's like, actually, I'm quite fond of that, and that's great. But I'm just thinking at large. I think what's really going to have impact is with the indie community. For Switch, that's been a good selling point, to the point where it's almost a meme at this point. Whenever a new indie game comes out, someone will say, when's it come to Switch? When's it getting ported to Switch? Because everyone expects Switch to be the home for indie games. And from recent news ramblings, it seems as if they're the easier platform to develop for, especially over Sony. But with Steam, you don't have that. You don't have that when's it coming to Steam, because Steam for many developers is the default. So already you're removing that disconnect. You've got the ability to take this new indie game that you buy out and go. Imagine you're playing Hades on your regular gaming computer, and then you decide to go away for a week with your family on holiday. I've got my Steam Deck, I'll take that with me and I'll complete Hades while everyone else is on the beach. So, indie is where Steam Deck is going to thrive, I think. Is it for me personally? Well, not really. As I said, I've got the Xbox Series S now. I should point out as well, I work from home, so portability, not really something I'm too super sold on. I got my Nintendo Switch back when I was originally commuting, and I was working from home pre-pandemic. It wasn't a pandemic mandated thing. But as soon as I started working from home, I have noticed my Switch usage has dived off pretty considerably. So again, that's why it doesn't appeal to me. I don't need that portability, but again, some do. If I had a Switch and I did commute, would I consider getting Steam Deck? Probably. Basically because, as Richard was saying there, the Steam library is so big. The Switch library is only a few years old, and it's also very heavily downweighted by the sheer amount of indie games that have made it to Switch. But Steam has a lot better search features for navigating all of those games which have came to the platform. So I think Steam is probably actually my preferred platform over Switch for the indies. My Switch has relegated itself to a first party only kind of thing. Pokemon, Zelda. Indie games I'm going to play on Steam, to be honest. Or Game Pass if it comes to Game Pass. So, is it for me personally? No, not in my current stage. But I really do hope it goes well. Because I think what we're seeing here, and we've been seeing it for some time, but I think this is I don't want to use the term watershed moment, but I think we're at a turning point here where the lines between portable and home hardware are really starting to get blurred. I mean, even when you start gaming on your phones, it was, I'm not good. Yeah, you know what? I will use the term mind blowing. Back in the day, I mean, we're talking 10 years ago here, before it became heavily microtransaction based, where game companies would actually port full games onto the phone, and you just buy it and play it, no additional financial input needed. But I remember playing Infinity Blade on my phone, which was made by Epic Games. If you've not heard of that game, look it up. You can't buy it anymore, unfortunately, but it just seems so intuitive. No way could you get that kind of experience on a console. Kinect was a thing for the time for the Xbox, maybe with that kind of motion control, but the swiping, you couldn't replicate that with thumbsticks on a home console. And ever since mobile gaming, the lines are really getting blurred. And Nintendo really hit gold with Nintendo Switch. This idea that you can play it on your big screen at home, undock it, take it on the go with you, and it's an uncompromised experience except a smaller screen. So I do think Steam Deck and Valve by extension have a lot to thank for Nintendo Switch. But I think, like the man who invented the wheel hundreds and thousands of years ago, they just made it. A lot of people have refined the wheel since. A lot of science has gone into the wheel, into your car tyres. I think Steam's about to make that kind of innovative jump. And I think because they've made the Steam Deck pretty open, I think you're going to see a lot of third parties make their own kinds of Steam Deck. Send it preloaded with Steam Deck perhaps. But yeah, I really look forward to seeing what happens with Steam Deck. I'm very curious as well. Before we wrap up, I do want to say it's a little curious that they're deciding to release this during the pandemic. I get it's probably been in the line for a while, but I feel like production probably wouldn't have started until maybe mid-2020. So I'm curious why they maybe didn't pause it and wait till after the pandemic, given the superconductor situation, which was getting serious earlier in 2020. And just knowing how the world was going to be, scientists were saying, this is here to stay for a while, and I just feel like there's going to be such limited stock that, it's going to be the PS5 all over again, really. But it will be interesting to look back on this and see how it fared 6 months to a year from now. I'll watch this video back, I'll be like, look at that camera, it's so blurry. But yeah,